Hello, my name is Monica. I'm a beauty, skincare, and YouTube enthusiast and amateur. I consume a lot of content on this space, so I thought I would try my hand at making some. I'm still kind of figuring out exactly what I want this channel to be like, so if you like small channels, people who are just starting out, maybe consider subscribing. If you let me know what kind of videos you like to watch. I'm really just figuring out what's fun to film and what's fun to make, so leave your suggestions down below and maybe I'll give them a try. Today's video specifically is going to be a Duping the Vibes video, which is inspired by Louise Poston and Lauren May Beauty, both who are on YouTube and make similar videos to this. Basically, I'm going to take the Natasha Denona Zendo Palette and recreate it using my own collection. And if I can't find shade for shade dupes, and maybe some of them I can, but if I can't, then I'm really going to just be striving to dupe the vibes, which is to say that I'm going to be trying to recreate the color story with what I have, try to make my own palette that has the same evocation of what the Zendo has. So yeah, the vibes, duping the vibes. So without further ado, let's get into it. And yeah, here we go. Okay, so jumping into it, I am starting with an empty palette here, and I'm going to show you a quick little spread of what I have out. These are my palettes that are depottable and my single shadows as well. I'm going to be using Instagram and referencing photos of the Zendo palette, and let's see, here's an example of something that I'm using. Swatches. This is very convenient to try to get a really good idea about. Okay, that was semi-tragic. Don't like that. We'll see how the rest of this video goes now. But again, just really checking out Instagram to see if I can get to know the palette under different lighting conditions and different swatching conditions on different skin tones to see how I can best dupe the vibes here. So let's get started. And my instinct is usually to kind of go from top to bottom. We'll see how that suits me. Two colors that I really want to get out of the way though are actually in the right hand spots here, and that is the shade Mantra and Flow, and those I think are pretty close. I've actually seen comparisons of them and I feel comfortable enough to just go ahead and, sorry, those are my depotting tools, to just go ahead and take them out and plop them in right now. That is this blue shade, which is the shade Python in the gold palette, and this one, which is the shade Aurora. And I'm sure that these aren't really identical. And I'm still unpacking. Yes, this is actually pimple popping tools. They're cleaned and sterilized. But I'm going to use them to depot today. So let's plop these in the spot where they would go in the Zendo palette, right up here. Let's see, I kind of feel like going down this cool tone side of the palette right here. So taking a look at the shade Breath and Equilibrium and Zeal, those are kind of like the cool tone shades in the palettes. Let's see if we can knock those out. The shade Breath is gonna be kind of difficult. shade Zeal. I think that this Natasha Denona Safari palette, which I've always been super inspired by this color story, I think this shade Savannah might be kind of similar to Zeal. And this shade Stone, which I've always loved, kind of evokes a little bit of that minty vibe that Breath has, but Breath is definitely more seafoam, and this is kind of that true cool toned stone. It's called stone, stone color. So I'm not sure that either one of these really works, but if you do have this palette, here's another blue that kind of reminds me of that mantra shade that we already have subbed in here. Yeah, this, I just am continually inspired by this particular color story, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to actually take anything from here. So let me put this away. You know what? I'm going to have to take it back and put in that stone color because it is the closest thing to seafoam that I have, and it's not very close at all. So this is definitely going to be a okay, excuse me, something plopped out. We're good though. This is definitely going to be a case where we're really more going for the vibe than we are for dupe here. That's okay though, because I really like this color, and any chance I can get to appreciate it some more, I'm happy to do that. Let's see, we had that Zeal shade, which is kind of like a gray olive green, kind of muddy. I think that it's gonna be similar to something that's in the, okay, not sure where, but my camera cut off, I believe. So I was saying that this Zeal color I think is going to be similar to something that we have in the Metropolis palette. I think it's close to one of these two colors here. This is gonna be what I pick for that Zeal shade, and it is from the Metropolis palette, and it is called Noble. I think that gets to the heart of that shade for me. This is a cream to matte, and I think that in the Zendo it's just a plain powder matte, but that's okay. We'll see when doing some swatches how those compare. I'm gonna go ahead and take this shade to be that shade that acts for balance in the Zendo palette. It's kind of a warm toned, brown, orangey brown transition shade. I think that can stand in for that just fine. I'm also going to take this shade, so that is the shade Stain in the Metropolis palette. I'm also going to take the shade Blaze. I'm going to have that stand in for the shade Luster. It is a, I think this is a little deeper than the Metropolis, or the Metropolis shade is a little deeper than the Zendo one. But I think it'll be pretty close, and that's okay. Okay, so for this mindful shade up here, I was thinking either something from the Glam palette or something, specifically this rustic shade from the Biba. And I think that's gonna be what I go with, this rustic shade. Okay, so it's interesting when I have just this L figured out here. It looks very gold palette. Even these shades, these are the only two shades from the gold palette, it still looks like this is very gold palette-esque. So that's interesting. I love the gold palette. Let's put in this Equilibrium shade, which is kind of like a gunmetal shade. I think I have something in here. No, I don't. Let's see if there's anything else in here. I keep, in my scrolling, I keep stumbling upon this Aura shade here that I think reminds me a bit of this. And I think that's actually it from the Vibes palette. Let's see if we can get some of these mattes. The rest of this palette is proving pretty tricky for me. Let me see. Okay, I think for the peachy color, I'm gonna take this Desert Date shade, which is more orange creamsicle, but I think it will get to the heart of what it is kind of doing for the palette. I'm also gonna take this Tribe shade, which I think is more orangey red than kind of true, a little bit cooler tone red, like a deep cooler tone red that's in the Zendo. But again, I think that these two shades will flesh out the palette a little bit more with what I have. For the pinky shade, I'm going to take this one from the Vibes Cool Mattes 2 palette. Again, this isn't quite right, but it's the best that I have. I'm gonna take this Silk shade and this Palladium shade to fill out these two spots. Oh, and I'm sorry, I misspoke. I do that a lot. This palette has been rearranged, so that's not actually silk and palladium. Oop. They are from the bronze palette. They are from the bronze palette, but they're not those actual shades. This Yama shade, that should be right here. Seems just kind of like a nice cool tone. Taupey, silvery, I don't know, it seems very interesting. I'm gonna go with this shade from the Glam palette, which has also been rearranged, so I'm not quite sure what color it is. And then the last one we have is that gunmetal shade, which, oh, I'm not quite sure what to do. Let me check my... Okay, for that gunmetal shade, I decided I'm gonna go with this one right here, which is kind of a bluey gunmetal shade. Alrighty, that is Duping the Vibes of the Natasha Denona Zendo Palette. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I hope that you found it either entertaining or maybe you got some ideas and it sparked some inspiration. Remember to take a look at what you have, enjoy what you have, and be a conscious consumer. That's really, I think, what I'm coming to find is the core of what I want to make, is really just taking a look at what you have, appreciating it, and just being smart when it comes to making new purchases. I think that's pretty much the end of the show spiel. So again, feel free to subscribe, like, comment, and I hope to see you in my next one.